Hi all, welcome back to Azure Space. Today we'll be looking into something different. Last video we talked about creating data frames. In this video, we'll look on how to read data from CSV file. So let's say I create a new notebook. I name this notebook as read CSV. I open it out. And in order to read this, doing this, I'm using Databricks because it has inbuilt a Spark session whenever I create a cluster in this. So I already spun up a cluster and I'm using the community version for doing this. Now I have a sample CSV file which looks something like this. And I want to read this file using Spark because in different projects, you might see different use cases where you have to connect to a file system and read those files and extract those files and get them to a central location or a data lake. So in this, if you see what CSV is, CSV is a comma separated file. So the comma has been used as a delimiter in order to separate the values into two different columns. So whenever it sees a comma, it pushes the next value to a different column. So let's say I want to read this, and in order to read this file, I need to have it in some place within Databricks. And the best option for this is to use a Databricks file system, that is DBFS, Databricks file system. But by default, if you go to data section, you won't find that DBFS enabled. In order to enable it, you have to go to settings, admin console. Within admin console, you have to go to the workspace settings, come down to the advanced section. Within this, you will see this Databricks file browser. By default, it is always disabled. Just enable this section. Then it would say we have to refresh our page to see it. So I will refresh my Databricks notebook. I will go to the data section. Now if you see, I see the DBFS file store here. So if I move to this section and I go to the file store, within this, I can click on the upload button and drag and drop the file that I have with me. So I'm uploading the same file that I have in here. So if you want to look how the data looks into an Excel file, this will come out something like this. Yeah, so all the values have been separated into different columns and the column names are these. And we have in total of 21 records. So let's say we go back to a DBFS, I say done. Now, I already did some POCs on this, so you would find the old files in here, but we'll do fresh from this one. So let's say I want to read this file. I take a copy path of this and I copy the Spark format. I copy this around, I close this, and Spark has an inbuilt library called read method. Within that read method, it has something called format, which specifies the type of data we are reading. So in our case, it is a CSV, so I will mention CSV. And I have to specify from where I have to load the data. So in this section, within a single quote or double quote, both works in Python, I will specify the path of my file. So it is under DBFS, file store directory, address.csv is the file. So let's say I run this. So if you see, it created a data frame with certain columns. Now, in order to display this, we last time discussed, we just do dot display on the top of this. So I got the data. But if you see, the header should have been ID, location ID, address one, these. But it took something different completely. Underscore C01, underscore C1. So it is by default assigning some headers to the data. But I don't want that. I want to take the first row as header. So what I will do is that I will just say option. I will say header, comma, true. So I will make Spark understand that you have to take the first row as the header. Let's say display this. So now you see the difference that ID came as a block letter and it is coming in the header section. And in total, we have 21 rows, what we saw in the Excel sheet. So in order to read a simple CSV file, this is the most simplest code that you will see. in order to read it. You just take the Spark read format, you give the CSV format, the header should be true, and the path where you are reading it. Now let's say I make some changes to this file. Let's say I copy this file, I paste it in a new tab. Now let's suppose that within the data itself, we have some commas. Because this, if you see, is the address one column value. So the address might have comma in it. Someone might have put it. So let's say I put another comma here and I save this file as address version 02.csv. Now let's say I try to read this file directly in Excel. What happens? Let's see. This is the version 2 file. And now if I expand everything, now if you see, ideally 2600 Middlefield Road should have been in a single column. But now because of the comma in between, this comma that we have given in here, it is pushing the value Middlefield Road to a next column. And in the end, if you notice, the US country has no header now because one by one they have shifted everyone to the right. Let's see what happens if we load it to our Databricks. I say again, I upload a file, I drag and drop the version 2, version 02, I say done. I copy the above file. Only thing that is changed is the path. So I say V02. I say do a display on this. So here also we are seeing the same result. The data has been pushed to the next column and the country, since it has no header, the US, that was coming in the Excel. It was flexible in here, but in Spark, we have to specify the column to have the data. So it is not coming in here. So that my data has completely been destroyed. So in order to correct this data, what can I do is that I will take this complete file, open a new version, create a new version of this. I can enclose them within double quotes. I take this, paste this, and this, and this. I save this as version 03. I save this. Let's say I now open this 03 file in Excel. Let's see what happens. Now Excel by default understand that it has to take double quotes as a separator. So now if you see, since we enclose this data of the comma within double quotes, it is coming in a single column. Same goes to SAN metal. Now we'll try to analyze the same thing in a database. I again say I go to DBFS, I go to file store, I say upload version 3 of my file. I say done. Now again read this, again do this, and I say version 3. Let's see what happens. So by default in Databricks also, it can understand that double quotes is we have to take whatever value is inside double quotes into a single column and it will escape this comma. It will not read this comma as a delimiter or a separator. But let's say you put something different, a different unique character instead of a double quote. So you can just specify it, QUOTE, and let's say you didn't put double quote, you put something else, you can specify that. But for our case, it's a double quote, so I'm specifying double quote within the view. So I did the same thing. So by default, Spark quote is a double quote in here. Now, another way to avoid these commas, what can I do is that let's say I copy the original file, I paste it here. Another different way that we can avoid this quote is that to change the delimiter. So comma is a very common delimiter that is being used because many places within the data itself commas might. So comma is not a good option for a delimiter. So instead of that, I can use a very unique combination of letters to make use of a delimiter. So in our case, I'm giving a pipe symbol, hash and a pipe symbol. So it's a combination. You can give whatever you like and whatever is supported in your system. That might differ from systems to system also. So for our case, let's say I do this. And I save this version as 04. This is done. Let's see how this looks in Excel. Now, Excel by default understands only the comma as a delimiter. So if you have a look at the fourth version, what it did is that it put everything in the same column. So in order to change the delimiter of the Excel, I have to go and change the settings of the windows. So I don't want to go through that hassle. We'll just do this from the Databricks itself. Now, let's say I put a comma in this file and in here also. So two places I put a comma and I try to save this file. I say no. I close this Excel. I said not save. Now I save this. Now it's saved. Now again I will try to open the Excel file, the 04th version. Now you will see a small difference in here. So what happened? Yeah. So what is happening in here is that since you see after 2600 I put a comma, Excel understood that okay, this is a comma and I have to do a split here. So it put the rest of the values in a different column. But this is not what I tried to mean. So let's try to do this in a database rather than doing it in a Excel. So I will say upload the fourth version with the new delimiter. I say done. Now I take this, I paste this here. I'm removing the quote. By default only it takes double quotes. I say display this 04th version, not the third. Now if you see what happened is that it put everything in a single column because Spark also understand, okay, I have to take comma as the delimiter. It doesn't understand what is the new delimiter I want to specify. So I have to explicitly tell it that you have to take this value, pipe, hash and a pipe as a delimiter. So for that, what I can do is that I take this, I add in another option called delimiter. And within single quotes or double quotes, I specify the delimiter, new delimiter that I designed. Let's say I do. Now, if you see, the data has been split very nice. So wherever there was a delimiter with this exact pipe, hash and a pipe, it split the next value into a, push the next value into a different column. Instead of delimiter, you can also use SCP for separator. So both works in Spark. So this is how that you split the data and keep your data into different columns, and you specify a unique delimiter in order to be in a safer position that if your data already contains a comma, so that won't destroy your data like it did in our previous use case. Okay, so this is what I wanted to go through in this video regarding CSV. So I will upload some more sessions on how to read JSON and Parquet files after this. If you find these videos anything anywhere, if it's useful, just hit a like button. That would be really helpful for me. And thank you all for watching and have a nice day.